Hello everybody, welcome along to the Hockenheim ring as we get set for 35 minutes of qualifying in this final round of the 2018 Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland Championship. The cars just making their way around now from the paddock area. We are running around about 20 minutes behind schedule due to a couple of red flag stoppages during the previous session on track just now, which was the ADAC GT Masters qualifying session. Here it's pretty mild for the time of year, around about 17-18 degrees. Track temperature a little bit under that at the moment, just under 15 degrees Celsius. A mild breeze, as you can see from the flags over in the distance, but a much better day than we had yesterday, where it was quite overcast for most of the day, fairly chilly, and during the second half of the afternoon we had some rain as well. But it looks set fair for this qualifying session, this very, very important qualifying session to come, with not just one championship but several championship titles at stake. For the overall Drivers' Championship, it's Tommy Preining that leads the way. He's had 7 wins this year, 8 if you include the win that never was at Zandvoort, where the race was red flagged and no points were awarded because it was run at less than 50% duration. He's had 9 podium finishes this year as well, and the young Austrian, in only his second season of Porsche racing, is 27 points clear of the reigning Porsche Super Cup champion and the very experienced Michael Ammermuller, his teammate. So 27 points between the top 2 in the championship. Those are the only 2 drivers that can win it now, and there are still 50 points up for grabs, with 25 points per race win for today's race and tomorrow's finale as well. So Tommy Preining, after back-to-back victories in the Sachsenring races just a couple of weeks ago, is very much in control of the championship, and he could wrap it up today if he maintains that 27-point advantage, or if he's more than 25 points clear at the end of the first race today. He'll have done enough to have wrapped up the championship, his maiden category championship, with a race to spare. Larry ten Voorde is 3rd in the standings on 149 points, but 80 points behind Tommy Preining, so he can't now catch up. There is the championship leader in the number 10 machine, the BVT Lechner Racing driver, who is on course for a fantastic season, not just here in Germany, but internationally as well, because he's been winning recently in the Porsche Super Cup as well. He's 3rd in the championship standings there, with a round to go in Mexico at the end of the season. Michael Ammermuller, who he's fighting against for this championship title, is the driver that leads the overall Porsche Super Cup standings. Larry ten Voorde is another driver, and Dylan Pereira and Jaap van Lagen, who are also competing and running in the top 10 in the international version of this championship. The cars released then, the clock already starting to tick down on this 35-minute session. Just to bring you up to speed on what happened yesterday in the 1-hour free practice session that we had. Well, it was Tommy Preining, a championship leader, that showed everybody else the way, really. 1 minute 42.150 seconds was his fastest time of the day, and that put him 0.2 of a second clear than you-know-who, Michael Ammermuller. So the 2 Lechner Racing drivers, the Austrian team, an Austrian driver in Tommy Preining, but a German driver in Michael Ammermuller, were the top 2 yesterday. Dylan Pereira was 3rd quickest, another of the Lechner Racing folds, and the rookie driver, the Luxembourg-based driver, 3rd quickest, just over 0.3 of a second away from Tommy Preining's best time with a 1 minute 42.509. Larry ten Voorde, 3rd in the championship, was 4th in free practice yesterday for Team Deutsche Post by Project 1 with a 1 minute 42.5. He was 0.4 of a second away from the fastest time set. Gustav Malja, the Swedish driver, his teammate, was 5th quickest, just a few thousandths of a second behind him with a 1 minute 42.642. And then in 6th place, it was the American driver Michael de Quesada for Team Project 1, 1 minute 42.728 seconds, just over half a second then, covering the top 6 in qualifying, in free practice rather, yesterday. Igor Veloko, the Polish driver, was 7th. Jaap van Lagen was 8th yesterday. Ashkenani and Wolf rounding out the top 10 in yesterday's free practice session. Very different conditions here today. As you can see, the onboard view from Dylan Pereira's car. Dylan going well, as I say, in the Porsche Super Cup this year. He's been on the podium, got podiums in the first 2 events of the International Series, and runs in 6th place in the standings there. Just 20 years of age, and finished 8th in last year's Porsche Super Cup as well, but coming into the Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland for the first time. Jaap van Lagen, the ultra experienced Dutch driver, will be looking to add to his race victories this year. Missed the first couple of rounds of the season at Oschersleben and the Red Bull Ring, but despite that, he's fourth in the championship standings and picked up his first win of the season at the Nürburgring, picked up his second win of the season at Zandvoort. And there is Carlos Rivas, who is trying to pick up his third consecutive class championship here this weekend, but with quite a bit of work to do. I'll talk to you now about those other championship standings. So in the amateur class division, it is Jorn Schmidt-Stade that leads the way. He's got 219 points. Carlos Rivas, who you just saw there, on 185, he's 34 points behind, with 50 points still available. And then in third place, just a couple of points behind him, is Stefan Reykhoff, the German driver, on 183 points. As we see Michael Ammermuller going for his first time of the session. So 34 points between the top two in the AM Class Championship. However, you only count your best 12 rounds. It's meant to be 12 from 14, but obviously Zandvoort was one of the races there was a non-points scoring race because of the red flags. So effectively, everybody's going to drop their one worst score of the year. Now, Jorn Schmidt-Stade has scored points in every single race so far this season, and therefore his worst results is where he picked up 11 points in the second race at Zandvoort with a fifth place finish. So he'll drop that. Whereas Carlos Rivas and Stefan Reykhoff, who are second and third in the championship, have had a DNF each at least. So they've already got a 0 points to drop. So they don't take anything off their scores. Whereas the championship leader has to take 11 points off his total as it stands. It could all change, of course, if he gets a DNF at some point this weekend. But it does mean that the 34-point advantage he has potentially is whittled down to 23 points. Still a fairly healthy advantage with just 2 races to go. But Jorn Schmidt-Stade hasn't won since the second weekend of the season. He won the first 4 races in terms of the AM Class category. He won both races at Oschersleben, both races at the Red Bull Ring, but he hasn't won since. And it is Carlos Rivas who's been doing most of the winning recently. He's won 6 out of the last 7 in his class. The other category to keep an eye on this weekend is the rookie classification. Igor Velilka, the Polish driver, leads that one. But this is the closest championship battle that we have this weekend. He's only 4 points clear of Dylan Pereira, who you've seen in action already in this qualifying session, on 179 points. Tim Zimmermann is third, 21 points behind on 162. And 50 points behind fourth place, Gustav Malja, the Swedish driver, on 133. Technically, he could still win it, but he would effectively need the 3 ahead of him not to score any points this weekend. He'd need to win the category both times, and then he would tie with Igor Velilko, and he'd have more wins, but that's the only way he can do it. So it's a very, very slim chance. But it's certainly between the top 2, Velilko and Pereira, and maybe Zimmermann. It's going to be a close 4th championship. The team's championship having already been wrapped up. That's the 4th category. That's BWT Lechner Racing. Have already wrapped up the championship. They're 224 points clear, and there's only 90 points still available. You count your top 2 cars as they cross the line. So BWT Lechner Racing well clear, having already wrapped up the team's championship. Team Deutsche Post by Project One are second. Not that far clear of Porsche Racing. So Tommy Preining and Michael Ammermuller going to battle straight away here in qualifying. Ammermuller sets the benchmark time. Preining just a few seconds behind him on the road. Goes a little bit quicker though. A lot quicker actually. Half a second quicker for Tommy Preining. 1 minute 41.204. And that means that they are already well below the times that we saw in yesterday's session. With a little bit of rain falling during the session yesterday. And not ideal conditions. So Tommy Preining with the fastest lap of the weekend so far, 1 minute 41.204, and he's going straight onto another flying lap here because he set the fastest first sector of anybody in the session so far, and is around about a 10th up on Michael Ammermuller in this first sector alone. The second sector is the longest sector and takes about half of the lap time here around this 4.574 kilometre circuit. Great overhead shot there of the final complex. I was watching the action there yesterday during the practice sessions as they come into this final arena complex through into Sachs Curve and Sud Curve and back out onto the start-finish line. And that is most of the third and final sector of the lap. He's gone quicker than anybody in sector 2 as well, 46.377 seconds. He's about 4/10 of a second up on Michael Ammermuller in this session. So Ammermuller's on for a personal best. in only a second flying lap, of course, but Tommy Preining, who's already half a second clear, well, at the end of this, he could be stretching that advantage to more like a second. Depends what happens in this final sector, but this is a terrific lap from Tommy Preining, neat and tidy right to the edge of the circuit. He comes out of Sudcurva and heads towards the line. And what's the time going to be? It is a 1 minute 41.103. Ammermuller did have a very good final sector though, so Ammermuller was actually quicker through the last part of the lap by a couple of tenths. And so, overall, the gap's come down to 0.3 of a second or just under. 1 minute 41.103 for Preining, 1 minute 41.381 for Ammermuller, who you sense has really got to try and do something about getting in front of Tommy Preining on the grid here, as we see an errant moment for number 99, Chris Wright, in the MSG HRT Motorsport car. He has a lock-up and goes straight on, but no harm done. He's currently running down in 16th place. There is Larry ten Voorde in the number 93 car, who is currently third in the championship standings. He's had 5 podiums this year. They've all been third place finishes. He's had to, more often than not, be the best of the rest, as Preining and Ammermuller have on many occasions taken the top 2 spots on the podium. At the moment though, in third place in this qualifying session is the number 3 car. The number 7 car of Tony Wolff, the Car Collection Motorsport entry. So he's third quickest at the moment with a 1 minute 41.5, 0.4 of a second away from Preining's best. Fourth quickest, having missed the Saxon Ring, is the French driver Jean-Baptiste Simonard. So he immediately makes an impression in 4th place. 5th place is ten Voorde, who you're watching now. But he's on for a personal best lap here. A personal best through the first 2 sectors of the lap. And if he can find 0.3 of a second, he'll get himself up into the top 4 here. Can he do it? He pushes hard as he comes out of the Sud curve and heads now for the line. He's got Mikael Ammermuller just behind him on the track, almost nose to tail as they come over the line. Through they go, and Ammermuller, who is about to start a flying lap, will hopefully, from his point of view, not get delayed here. Ten Voorde didn't do it. He stayed in 5th place. It was a better lap from him, his best of the session so far. And he closed the gap, but he stayed in 5th place. So Simonard remains in 4th at the moment. The difference between Simonard and ten Voorde is only 68 thousandths of a second. Henrik Skog going through shot. Richard Wagner had a bit of bad luck there, picking up a spinning car at the Saxon Ring to rather ruin one of his races. But the German driver on for his best lap of the session now, makes his way out of the final turn. And where is this going to put him? He's down in 19th place at the moment. He gains 2 up to 17th spot. The one that's improved in the top 10 and just going up into 6th place is the 99 car of Gökhan Ayhancan, the Turkish driver, and he's gone up into 6th place now. So 99 with an improvement with a 1 minute 42.055. It means the top 7 cars are now covered by less than a second in this session. So Ayhancan Gökhan with a good lap. There is Tony Wolff, who's currently in 3rd place in this session. No improvement for him at the start of this lap so far though, so it doesn't look like necessarily he's going to improve his lap time here. He needs to find 0.2 of a second if he wants to get onto the front row of the grid. But Tony having an excellent run here. He's been a very consistent driver this year. Only once has he not finished in the points this season. He's yet to pick up a podium. His best finish so far being a 6th place finish coming mid-season at the Nürburgring. So Tony Wolff, I don't think he's going to improve on this lap. We've got a few cars coming into the pits now as they take a natural pause in what's a fairly long qualifying session of 35 minutes. Wolff just looks like he's backed off the pace here to me. So we've got the top 2 in the pits, Preining and Ammermuller. We've got Simonard, who's 4th, has made his way into the pits as well. Larry ten Voorde, who's in 6th place, also has made his way into the pits. And Vilolko, who is leading the rookie standings, is only in 14th place at the moment, so not the ideal start for him. He's in the pits. Henrik Skog has come into the pits, and Richard Wagner has just come into the pits in front of the commentary box now. In fact, there's a plethora of Porsches making their way in now. You can see directly opposite the comms box here, Carlos Rivas now making his way in. Good view here from the comms box overlooking that final sector, that run through the arena and through into the tight left-hander at Sax curve, which was catching a lot of drivers out yesterday when we had rain in the various sessions. a gravel trap awaits there, and many drivers took a trip through it yesterday in the various categories that we have here this weekend and just about got themselves out. You can see them then all the way through the flat out kink at turn 13, turn 14, and into the final turn 15, the Sud curve, which you've got to get absolutely right, because then you are flat out all the way over the start finish line and into the very fast first corner Ravenel curve. We've got to be careful not to run too wide and pick up warnings for track limits. And then the first big opportunity, the first big braking zone of the lap comes down at turn 2, the Bernie Ecclestone curve up. Well, they'll drop down to second gear. Jaap van Lagen then having a good start to this lap. He's only in 10th place at the moment, but a personal best in the first sector. And if he can hold it together through the third sector, he might be up there. His second sector wasn't an improvement, but it was okay. Still half a second away, though, from the very best second sector that we've seen. And he moves up to 4th place with a 1:41.792. That's still almost 7/10 of a second away from Tommy Prining's best lap of the session so far. 21 minutes and change remain, and it is Tommy Prining, the championship leader, who in the pit lane at the moment is quickest of all. His teammate Mikael Amamala has gone back out on track. It's just under 3/10 of a second between them. Number 98, Tom Lautenschlager there. And following him round, he's on his personal best lap here, and looks like he's going to make a big improvement. He'll rocket himself up the order here. He's down in 23rd spot. How far up the order does he go? Over the line goes the 98 car, and actually loses out in that final sector. It was all looking good until the last bit of the lap, so he stays down in 23rd place. About a third of the way through the session now. Tommy Prining, Mikael Amamala, the top two. Tony Wolff in third. Jaap van Lagen has just come up to 4th place. Jean-Baptiste Simonau, the French driver, in 5th place. Robert Lukash has come up into the top 6 a couple of laps ago. He had dramas in qualifying at the Saxon Ring, you may remember, and had to try and make his way through from the back of the grid in both races, because qualifying, a single qualifying session, sets the grid for both races 1 and 2 of the weekend, with your fastest lap setting the grid for the Sunday race and your second fastest lap for each driver setting the grid for the first race, which is coming up this afternoon. One of the additional entries we've got here this weekend, but the guest entries is Matthias Jesserich here in the AM class. The AM class being bolstered by a number of additional entries this weekend, and through he goes with a better lap and 26th place in the Swissnet back car. We've got number 71 Al-Fazal Al-Zubair as well coming in this weekend. Number 77 Georgi Donchev, and 96 is Bertram Hannan. So they're all additional drivers, 3 of them coming in as AM class drivers. Right, Dylan Pereira should be fighting up somewhere near the front, but he's yet to put in a representative lap time here in the 28 car, and he's looking to put his first proper lap of the session together here, and we'll see where it puts him in. Dylan currently 6th place in the overall standings. Had a really good start to the season with podiums in both races at Oschersleben, a 2nd and a 3rd place finish there, but hasn't been on the podium overall since then here in the German Championship. It's a similar thing in a way in the Super Cup. He got 2 podiums in the first weekend of the season there and hasn't been on the podium since, although he's had several top 5 finishes and has been very consistent in that championship. He is up against Igor Valilko for the rookie championship title. Just needs to outscore him by 4 points. They'll score points in the main championship, but the highest placed rookie, wherever they finish in the race, will pick up 25 points. Same point scoring system as we get for the main championship. So if he wins the rookie category in race 1 this afternoon, and Igor Valilko is 2nd, he'll outscore him by 5 and move by a point into the lead. So that's Dylan Pereira's key goal here. Prining and Amamala, the top 2, are both back out on circuit. Wolff and Van Lagen, who are 3rd and 4th, are in the pits. Simonau, who's 5th, is back on track. Lukash and Ten Voort, who are 6th and 7th, are in the pits. And just coming up now into 8th place with his best lap of the session so far is Zaid Ashkanani. The Kuwaiti has put a very good lap in, 1:41.929. If he can find another 10th and a half, he'll get into the top 5. It's very tightly compacted from 4th down to 10th place, down to 11th place actually. You've only got 3/10 of a second covering more than half a dozen cars. Mikael Ammermuller back out. Just to go through the rest of the top 10. In 9th place, it's Johanken Guven, and in 10th place, currently, it's Tim Zimmerman. That's the way it stands there. With most drivers now having done 5 or 6 flying laps. Actually, having done fewer laps than most is Mikael Ammermuller. Tommy Preining, likewise, has only been and done 4 laps, 2 flying laps. Ammermuller ramping things up here. Not sure this is going to be the lap to improve on, but maybe the next lap we'll try and get it together. All looking very pacey, very much in control. Making his way now through turns 7, 8, 9 and 10 to get onto the short back straight. Runs out wide, uses all the track, and he's coming up into the end of sector 2 now. That's it's not going to be an improvement this lap. He's firing up for the next lap. As ever, the 2 teammates find themselves close together on the circuit. There is Tommy Preining, just about 5 or 6 seconds behind him on the road. He too using all of the curbs. Ammermuller now making his way into turn 12 at the Sachs curve in front of the grandstands, which are beginning to fill up here this morning. Easy flat through the left kink and then into Sachs curve. They can see the drag strip, which is also a feature of Hockenheim here with international drag events, drag racing events. And over the line, and this will be the start of the flying lap descents for both Ammermuller and for Preining. That was the build-up lap, 1:41.1 for Preining. Actually, he wasn't that far away from his very best. He wasn't lighting up any sector times there. He didn't make any personal bests, yet he was still only a fraction away from his best lap of the session. So it was a very consistent lap, that. Slow-mo of Mikael Ammermuller getting a bit too wide and using a bit too much curb. You can see the front wheels lifting off the ground there and losing a bit of traction and a bit of acceleration onto the straight. Ammermuller sets a personal best in sector 1, but Tommy Preining has set the very best sector 1 of anybody so far, and he's half a tenth up. So both look like they might improve their lap times, but every time Ammermuller improves, Preining seems to have an answer to it. So the 2 championship contenders now making their way through their latest attempts to either improve upon or go for pole position. Tommy Preining, he's up at the moment though. Traffic not a problem so far, as he makes his way up towards the end of sector 2, and he's lost a little bit of time there. Whereas Ammermuller has had a personal best in that second sector as well. He was a little bit ahead of him on the road. So we're following Preining, but I'm not sure Preining's going to improve his lap time. Ammermuller might. Whether he's going to improve by enough to close the gap, I'm not sure. At the moment, Preining has a 0.278 second advantage for pole position. Waiting for Mikael Ammermuller to come through in the 11 car. He crosses the line and goes fastest. Ammermuller to the top of the times, 1 minute 40.995. But Preining responds. Tremendous final sector. Better than anybody in sector 1. He lost a little bit of time in the middle of the lap, but he got it all back together in the final sector. And by 1/10 of a second, he snatches pole position back. So Ammermuller was on pole for about 4 seconds, and Preining gets it back. However, it's going in the right direction for Mikael Ammermuller. He was nearly 3/10 of a second behind. He's now just over 1/10 of a second is what he needs to find. And that was a good, consistent lap from Mikael Ammermuller. Number 20 is getting, that's Henrik Skog, getting lap times cancelled, and that will be for track limits. So Henrik Skog struggling a bit at the moment, down in 17th place. Not what you expect to find in the driver who is 5th in the championship standings. Dylan Pereira, we saw him having his first proper run a few minutes ago, and he's only down in 13th place at the moment. So a few drivers with improvements to try and find here in this session. In terms of the AM class yesterday in free practice, within the category, it was points leader Schmidt Stade that had the advantage of nearly half a second over Carlos Rivas. Dylan Pereira was the quickest driver within the rookie category. Vililko was only 4th. I haven't seen too much from Vililko so far. Oh, wide there from Vililko. And that's going to rather curtail his chances of improving his lap time this time around. He's into the top 10 in 9th place, but no improvement here. Through the gravel trap, over the grass, a bumpy ride. but he got it back on track. Luckily, any rain that we had yesterday, because it's been fairly breezy, I think that grass has dried up enough for it not to be too treacherous when they run off the circuit now. Another improvement for Zaid Ashkanani in the number 15 car. He's now up to 4th place, and Dylan Pereira, who we see there, has just gone into 5th spot. So Priding fastest, 1 minute 40.781. An improvement again on that lap. 1 minute 40.781 puts him 2/10 clear now, Mikael Ammermuller. So he found another 1/10 of a second. Ammermuller didn't improve, so he's on a 140.995 as his best. They're the only two to break the 141 barrier thus far. Here's Tim Zimmerman. What can he do? He's an outside contender for the rookie category, and currently he's in 12th place. Doesn't improve on that lap. He's about 3/10 of a second slower than his best of the session so far. So Tim Zimmerman there in the number 5 car. Somebody else that's just, so far, there's still time to go, but so far in this qualifying session, a little bit lower down than you would expect. Rookie driver who's come up through touring car racing, having competed and been on the podium several times in the TCR Germany Championship for the last couple of seasons, and raced single-seaters in Formula 4 and Formula Masters before that. All right, here's a driver I've mentioned a few times who's been going really well. Ianken Guven in the 99 car, up into 5th place. He's just done that and moved ahead of Dylan Pereira, who's been pushed back down to 6th position. So Priding fastest, Ammermuller 2nd, Wolf still 3rd from his very early lap time. He's just gone back out on track. 4th place, Ashkanani, number 15. Number 99 in 5th place, as we've just seen with that improvement, is Guven. And 28, Dylan Pereira in 6th. Jaap van Lagen, number 69, only 7th at the moment. Jean-Baptiste Simonau was 4th at the start of the session, but he's only now 8th. Robert Lukash in 9th. And Larry ten Voorde down in 10th place. So he's struggling a little bit as well. Igor Vililko is in 11th. So the best of the rookies is Dylan Pereira in 6th. Simonau then in 8th. And Vililko, the points leader, only the 3rd best rookie at the moment, in 11th place. That is going to go right down to the wire, sense, in tomorrow's season finale. Zimmerman is the 4th best rookie in 12th place in the number 5 car. Henrik Skoog, number 20, has just moved up to 13th. And Gustav Malje, who you're watching here, is in 14th place. Joseph Eitzer, number 24, in 15th. At 16th spots, number 71, Al-Fazel Al-Zubair. And then Michael de Quesada. And also down there, at the tail end of the top 20, is Marius Nakken. At the moment, the number 14 car is only in 18th place. So Marius Nakken, the Norwegian who got onto the podium with a strong and robust drive, having a bit of a contact at the start of the race, you may remember, with Mikael Ammermuller, forcing him out wide. Well, he's barely in the top 20 at the moment. Jaap van Lagen has improved to 3rd. And Gustav Malje, we saw there, improving to 4th place as he crossed the line. So 2 big improvements there. How much off the pace are they relative to the top 2? About half a second is the answer to that question. So Priding and Ammermuller, both in the pits now, and probably with 1 more run each, with 9.5 minutes to go, are the top 2. They're 1 minute 40.7 and 1 minute 40.9 respectively. Van Lagen 3rd with a 141.371, only 12 thousandths of a second clear of Malje, who's in 4th place. Larry ten Voorde needs an improvement here. Looks good in the 2nd sector, was a personal best. He's outside the top 10 at the moment in 12th place. That puts him up 4 places to 8th. So Larry ten Voorde up into 8th now with a 141.722. He's only 56 thousandths clear of Dylan Pereira, who's dropped to 9th place now. And Jean-Baptiste Simonau, he's only 20 thousandths of a second behind him in 10th place. Vililko is 37 thousandths of a second behind Simonau in 11th spot. And then Lukash is 20 thousandths of a second further adrift in 12th place. So what I'm getting at is that there's absolutely nothing between Larry ten Voorde in 8th place and then Robert Lukash in 12th position, just a 10th of a second covering all those drivers. The American driver, Jacob Eidson here, looking to improve. Had a good start to the lap, has had a good middle sector as well, both personal bests. 22.3 in sector 1 or 46.7. It's the middle sector where everybody seems to be losing out to Priding and Ammermuller, though. 7 or 8 tenths of a second down in that sector alone. couple of tenths down in the first sector relative to them, so he's going to be still the best part of a second slower than the pole time. But where will this put Jacob Eidson? It's certainly looking like an improved lap time for him. Will it be an improved position? Yes, he goes up to 9th and just under a second slower. 0.966 seconds adrift. Here is the points leader in the amateur class then, fighting hard this weekend to keep them at bay. Jorn Schmidt-Starder, the German driver, in the number 12 car. Managed to set the fastest time within his group yesterday. Sunshine bearing down upon us. Autumnal feel to the air, though, a little bit fresher in the air than we've been used to in the last couple of weeks. Actually, it's been pretty hot here over the last few days. This is the coolest period of the week so far. Middle of the week, it was very hot indeed. So Schmidt-Starder is still the best of the AM class qualifiers. He's in 16th place overall. And Carlos Rivas, his nearest rival, is down in 21st spot currently. A bit of work to do. Right, Wolf, who set a very good time early on in the session to go third, has just improved his time, but stays in third place with a 1:41.184. And he's now within half a second of the pole time, and only a couple of tenths away from Mikael Ammermuller. Ammermuller could really do without somebody being in between him and Tommy Preining. Absolute worst case scenario for him is to be having somebody holding him up off the start, which he had in race 1 at the Sachsenring, and not able to do anything about his championship rival. As a round goes, number 12, Jorn Schmidt-Starder, loses the back end of the Porsche, spins around, there should be no harm done, and just try and fire it back up now and wait for a safe place to rejoin. It's coming out of the last turn. He just got on the gas a bit too early. The 480 brake horsepower is not easy to contain, and it transferred a bit too quickly to the rear wheels. I can see Jorn now in front of the commentary box getting back underway, so he's back on track. Of course, he's going to have that lap ruined, the next lap ruined as well, because he's going to have a very slow run over the start-finish line. And so I would imagine he's headed back probably to the pits. But at least no harm done to the car, and he survives. You see him wrestling away with the wheel there. And then he delivered the power, a twitch, and it goes. Snaps away from him very quickly, oversteers around, and there's not much he can do from there on in. Luckily, he missed most of the gravel and parked it on the grass. As I say, he's got going again now with 5 minutes or so of the session remaining. The other improvement in the top 10 in the last minute or so has been Robert Lucas, who is into 10th place, as Jorn Schmidt-Starder tries to stay out of the way of everybody else, and successfully does so as he, I think, makes his way probably back to the pits. In 16th place, doing a pretty good job though. Carlos Rivas had a very, very good qualifying at Sachsenring, which helped him on course to his 2 victories there within the category. Michael de Quesada makes an improvement. He goes into the top 10 as well now, so good effort that from Michael. Up into 9th place now. He pops, and that's a 1:41.642 seconds. Only a tenth of a second away from gaining 2 positions. 7th place to 9th, very tightly compacted as well. So Preining and Ammermuller still in the pits at the moment with just over 4 minutes to go. Surely Ammermuller at least is going to have one more chance at this though. Robert Lucas going wide as he pushes and pushes and pushes to try and get himself back at the order here. What he doesn't need is 2 bad qualifying sessions on the bounce. The Polish driver looks like he's going to improve his lap time here. Just has to take a slightly odd line on the way into the final curve to stay out of the way of the car, which goes into the pits. Can he get him back into the top 10 now? Just about into 10th place he goes. So he gains 1 place up into 10th spot for Robert Lucas. 1:41.658 seconds. Only 16 thousandths of a second away from Michael de Quesada, who we just saw improving as well. So the Porsche driver with an improvement, currently 10th in the standings, currently looking for his first podium finish since that first weekend of the season at Oschersleben. Henrik Skog down in 17th place still. A fairly quiet weekend, although he was in the points in both races at the Sachsenring as well. So it's just fading away from him a little bit at the moment, this position in the top 5 in the championship. And Dylan Pereira, he's only a point behind him in the championship standings, in 6th place overall. Good first sector. Second sector is not an improvement. 47.3 through that middle sector. 46.1 is the theoretical best through there. So losing an awful lot of time in the middle of the lap here, Henrik Skoog. Can he improve his position at least from 17th? No, he can't. It fades away from him at the end of the lap. So Henrik really struggling with the car, it seems, in this qualifying session. And way down the order compared to where we expect him to be. Third in the rookie standings last year, of course, Henrik Skoog. Larry ten Voorde kicks up the dust as he pushes over the line. 6th place he stays, though, 1 minute 41.551. It's only a 10th away from his best. And that's probably where he lost a 10th of a second there. Just wide on the exit to the final curve. Left rear going into the gravel trap. Losing some traction on the grass over the bumps, and at least a 10th of a second drop there. Tony Wolff back on track, still in 3rd place. Tommy Preining and Mikael Ammermuller are still in the pits, and with only 1 minute and 50 seconds left on the clock, that might be it now. They might be looking to potentially hold on to their tyres for the race. Maybe they feel they just can't get any quicker in this session. They're going to look after the tyres. The Michelin tyres have 3 sets of slicks per weekend. Tony Wolff will go on to what might be his final chance to get himself on the front row of the grid here. He is only a fraction away from making the front row of the grid, and so too is Dylan Pereira, who's just improved up to 3rd place, 1 minute 41.021 seconds. Now, Dylan Pereira at 3rd, he's only 26 thousandths of a second behind Mikael Ammermuller's best time of the session. So Ammermuller's front row starting position is in real danger here. Wolff is down to 4th place, Van Lagen down to 5th, Mallier in 6th, ten Voorde 7th. In 8th place now, it is Guven, and in 10th place to Quesada. Robert Lucas back out of the top 10. Arias Nacken really struggling down in 19th place currently, but he's on 2 personal best sectors and improves, but only up to 17th place. So Nacken, the Norwegian, normally fighting up there in the points. Not so here on the podium just a couple of weeks ago at the Sachsenring. Granted, a very, very different circuit to this, but still, that's very disappointing for him. But at least the times are improving, and he's got another chance. It's going to be his last lap, because there's only less than 30 seconds left on the clock now. Dylan Pereira in a good position, though. And this rookie, going into this rookie season finale, he's the best rookie in qualifying by some distance. Gustav Mallier, who is 4th in the standings, is also qualifying well. He's 6th overall. And Michael de Quesada is the only other rookie in the top 10 in qualifying at the moment, in 10th place. 14th place as the flag comes out at the moment for Igor Vililko, which only puts him 6th in category. Jean-Baptiste Simonauer comes through. Vililko is one of the first to take the flag. 13th place for him. Dylan Pereira didn't improve. 3rd place for him it will be. It was a pretty good lap from him, 1 minute 41.3. Not quite his best, though. Simonauer trying to find something right at the end of the session here. Can he do it? 14th place. No, he can't. Started the session well, but wasn't able to improve like everybody else. It was a good start to the lap. He had a personal best in sector 1, but it rather faded from him thereafter. And so it is going to be another pole position for Tommy Preining, and Mikael Ammermuller will be alongside him once again on the front row of the grid. But he had a late scare there with Dylan Pereira getting very close to pushing him down to 3rd spot. Only 26 thousandths of a second between them. So Preining first, Ammermuller 2nd, Pereira 3rd. Tony Wolff is going to be 4th on the grid. Jaap van Lagen will be 5th on the grid. Gustav Mallier in 6th. Larry ten Voorde in 7th. And then in 8th place, as Tim Zimmerman looks to finish his lap as one of the last cars through at the moment, is Ianken Guven. Tim Zimmerman then, normally punching up there in the top 10, only 15th at the moment. He does have a chance of improving here, though. I don't think it's going to be a massive improvement in terms of position, but he could get a little bit higher up than 15th. Over the line he goes. No, he stays 15th. 141.8. That's his best lap of the session. And if he could have had a 10th of a second, it would have got him up to 12th place. That's how tight it is in that midfield. He's actually only a couple of tenths of a second away from being in the top 10. Well, finishing that qualifying session for the last 10 minutes or so, calmly sat Watching everybody else was Tommy Preining, and the championship leader moves another step towards his maiden title. The young Austrian with a 1 minute 40.781 second lap. Michael Ammermuller got close a couple of times and for a brief moment snatched provisional pole position, but Preining always had an answer to him. Dylan Pereira very close to getting on the front row of the grid in third. Tony Wolff in fourth. Jaap van Lagen, a race winner this year, in fifth place. Then Malia ten Voorde. Next up, Guven in 8th place, Ashkanani in 9th, and Quesada rounding out the top 10. Robert Lucas in 11th, Jacob Eitz in 12th, Velilko disappointing 13th, Simonauer in 14th, Zimmerman in 15th and 16th place. Going to the best of the AM-class drivers, having a moment on track as we saw Jorn Schmidt-Stade. Alzuber in 17th, Rakoff in 18th, Marius Nacken down in 19th place, Henrik Skoog 20th. The Norwegian and the Swede might be ones to watch coming through in the race if they can improve their cars and improve their pace, but they are way down the order compared to where we normally expect to find those two drivers. And then confirmation of the rest of what is a bolstered field this weekend of over 30 cars in action. 32 cars making their way through that 35-minute qualifying session. And here are some super slow-mos of the top three. The Luxembourg driver, Dylan Pereira, looking to close the gap at the top of the rookie standings this weekend. Has put himself in with a very good chance of doing so. Third place overall for Dylan Pereira. Michael Ammermuller needs to close a 27-point gap to his teammate this weekend if he's to win the championship title. And he's just behind him on the grid. Second place in qualifying for Michael Ammermuller. And once again, you'll have to try and find a way past Tommy Preining, who has taken yet another pole position. His BWT Lechner Racing teammate snatches pole position and will be looking for his third consecutive race win following the back-to-back victories last time out at the Sachsenring. There was the reaction as Tommy Preining realised he got that very, very important pole position. So the Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland is coming up later on today with the first of 2 races. But before we get to that this afternoon, here are some highlights from that qualifying session. Tommy Preining was the man with all eyes upon him as the championship leader. A few drivers with moments out on the track, including number 99, Ankan Guven, who went well in the end to break well up into the top 10. Michael Ammermuller and Tommy Preining were fighting at the front of the field for pole position and trading fastest lap times. This was the moment where Michael Ammermuller pushed a little bit too hard on one of his laps, giving it 100%. Jaap van Lagen was improved upon yesterday, but couldn't fight for the front row of the grid. Igor Velilko had an errant moment coming out of the last turn, which was catching 1 or 2 drivers out. Tommy Preining keeping an eye on the live timing to make sure he'd nailed pole position. Gustav Malia amongst the drivers that made late improvements to get near the front of the field. So too Jorn Schmidt-Stade. Despite this pirouette coming out of the final turn, he'd done enough to be the best placed AM-class driver in qualifying. Henrik Skoog couldn't get the car underneath him despite a late improvement to times. He's way down the order towards the tail end of the top 20. So too Marius Nacken. And there's the view above here at the Hockenheim Ring. This 4.5 kilometre circuit, much changed over the years, but still a great venue for Porsche Carrera Cup racing. 2 races to come then. Thanks very much for joining us for qualifying. From me, Chris Hartley, and the team. We'll speak to you a little bit later on today.